evening and welcome to another episode of Bantaba. I am your host, Christina. Our previous topic was quite a talk and interesting one, but we hope you were able to gain something tangible from it. Today, you're about to witness something phenomenal, as our guest today will be yet speaking on another controversial topic. Today, our guest will discuss the role of women in Africa's development. When it comes to women, how much do you know? What do you think about women? What is your perspective about the role of women? Do you think the society has given women more power than they should hold? All those questions will be cleared by our second guest today. This isn't one you want to miss. Now, introducing our guests, these are learned and seasoned scholars who have dedicated their journey to pursuing knowledge. Their prowess has put them on the path to success and helped them achieve several feats. Their dedication towards personal empowerment and self-mastery laid a strong foundation on which their accomplishment did and will still firm. So our first guest from Nigeria, a PhD student of pharmacology. Welcome, Shudunke Oluwasefunmi.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Our second guest from Zambia. Welcome, Desmond.
Thank you so much. It's good to be back here again.
Thank you. Our third guest from Nigeria, an undergraduate student of MBBS. Welcome, Timothy.
Thank you for having me.
So without further ado, let's get to business. So our first question, we'll be going to, of course, the women on the panel, Shifumi. The role of African women as caretakers in the ancient and modern times. What can you tell us about what role women played in the ancient times and in present era?
Okay, previously, like you said, in ancient times, women were caretakers, so that involved taking care of the home, bearing children, taking care of children, helping to put things in order. They were the ones that were majorly involved in the upbringing of children, molding their children to become whoever they were going to be in future, and then taking care of the house. Then compared to now, I think even then there were some outliers, like some women whose voices were heard, who were maybe activists. They were able to speak out for their fellow women, speak out for even their nation. And currently we have a lot of women that do a lot of stuff. Like a lot of women that are trying to make sure that every woman's voice is heard. We have a lot of women in different facets of life now. We are not, unlike before, we are not relegated to just being caretakers. Now women, we go to school, we get different positions in the society, unlike before.
Thank you. Timothy, what can you tell us about the role of African women as educators?
It's education, right? Okay, before I move to your question, I would like to add on what she said, right? Yeah, so in the ancient times and the kind of economy we had before the advent of colonialism, right? Women were the caretakers, like you said, and we as African, most nations existed, we live a form of communal lifestyle, right? And the prevalent things there were agriculture and there was farming, the men and the women. The men farmed, the women gathered the crops. So it was a kind of a synergy between the men and the women. It was a substantive economy, right? And then after colonialism, we moved on to a form of a monetary economy, right? Where the men had to leave and go out, do jobs, seek for jobs, while the women were now left to be at home, to take care of the house, take care of the kid. So I think that really kickstarted the kind of system we have now when the monetary economy came in. So before that, there were really a lot of African women that really played a pivotal role in the sense of development of Africa in general. And going to your question now, as educators, right? When we look at the modern world, when we look at the modern day system, you see, education is one of the most very important things that has actually been the building blocks and the foundation of society. We know we have the family, and each family that has been given the privilege of allowing their kids and their children to go to school. They can become doctors, they can become lawyers, they can become teachers, they can become scientists, they can go into the world and actually be useful, relevant, and impact change, overall improving the system. Women being allowed, women being given women being given the privileges, women being given the opportunity to participate in this, and without any form of discrimination, without any form of hindrance by societal construct, it's really, really helpful because overall, womanhood, as we know, has its very, very, very cogent and important strengths. You see, when we look at the world and nowadays, a lot of the teachers we have at the universities and schools are females because female they have this nurturing ability. They know how to make people. They know how to teach you. They know how to instill discipline. You see, one of the things that education does aside from the family is instilling discipline, instilling core values that makes us become like people very important in society. So women actually have a very good role in education.
Thank you so much. Thisman, what can you tell us about the role of African women as global volunteers in emergency response? Like, if you look at it today, when in times of crisis, we know women are always there to volunteer, right? They're always there to help, to ask what to do, just to make everything go back to normal. So, what can you tell us about global volunteers and emergency response, basically?
I think, and as I understand your question, but I think let me just go a little bit back to what you said at first. You said the topic is a little bit controversial,
Yeah.
which, in my opinion, I don't think the topic has to be that. It's not a controversial topic. It's we should ask ourselves why, um, in this time and age, such topics are becoming controversial in the first place, because that is not something that should actually be up for debate. But on your question, you said the role of women in volunteering. I feel like the thing is, the question itself is a little bit biased, if I was to say that.
Why would you
Because
say that?
why, the question I would ask is, why do you why volunteering?
Okay.
When talking about women, why should we only talk about volunteering? You would have mentioned something like, okay, the role of women in science and technology, the role of women in mining, for example, in engineering. But the first thing that you mentioned is volunteering. Their importance, like what they do on a scale. And I feel that is the conversation that we should be having, is that why, when we talk about women, the only thing that comes to our minds is everything that has to do with social work, everything that has to do with things like volunteering, helping, and things like that. So, in my opinion, it's a debate, and it's it's something that should actually it's a conversation that should actually be had, and yeah, I feel there's a problem.
Okay, I would like to lay more emphasis on that question. I agree with you that it's like male, female, they both volunteer, they both respond in emergency time. But can you say, because I don't want to speculate, but can you say if there is more probability that women would respond in emergency situation than men? Because I think that is what brought about this question.
Uh-huh. Now your question is correct.
Okay.
So the thing is, when we talk about emergency situations, it's in the nature of a woman. Women have that nature in them to be mothers. It's not about masculinity. You understand? Men have that masculinity, and when I say masculinity, I feel like in this time and age, when you mention masculinity, it's like you cannot say that. You understand? But it's men are not really that. Let me say women are more, when it comes to hospitality, they are very good at that. When it comes to taking care of people, they are very good at that. And that, according to your question, yeah, women in times of emergencies and things like that, they would respond more because it is in their nature to actually respond the way they would respond. Yeah. So it's something that they would do naturally, and they would be very good at it because it's something that it's in them.
Thank you very much. Timothy, what can you tell us about the role of African women in the workforce?
In the workforce, right? Well, okay, building on my previous point, yeah, I would say in the modern day and age, right, where the workforce accounts for, I think, about 45 to 60% of the overall development, gross domestic gross domestic product, and overall advancement of nation's wealth and the nation's heritage. You see, involvement of women, it cannot be overlooked, and participation of the role of women in the workforce cannot be sidelined because um, building on education, like we said, once women have gotten this proper ability to be educated, it's very necessary that we have a balanced system where um, um, the richness of ideas, the richness of prospects we can get from both men, we can also get such prospects from both women to really enhance our economy. You see, like women taking up roles in the banks, in the firms and institutions and industries, managerial roles and all that. You see, if we look at, for instance, a country like Rwanda, you see, I know somebody will still mention that because of this discussion, but you see, like, it's an example of a country where you see, like, there's a very high population of women in the workforce, right? And in the past years, and we could see how it has positively impacted them in the overall growth and progress of the country. You see, Nigeria, for instance, has a population of maybe 200 and something, 250, 210, within that range, within 200 to 230 million. And you see, about 50% of Nigerians are women.
Yeah.
So,
No more.
if not more. So, think about it this way: why would we have a workforce and decide to just keep out 50% of our population to not participate in it? If women account for this amount, why don't we be more inclusive? Where everybody can participate. It's just like you have $200 and then you need something of $170, and you just keep $100 aside, and you're still trying to make out the other $100 to account for $170. No, you need all players to come together. That's why the society have to kind of have to employ ways and mediums and platforms by which we encourage women participation in the workforce, because we can pinpoint examples. See, Rwanda, the whole world looks at Rwanda now. Africa looks at Rwanda now, and you see women in the workforce in Rwanda has grossly impacted them positively. So,
Thank you very much.
I hope I answered your question.
Thank you. So for me, what can you tell us about the role of African women in innovating across the technology spectrum? Let me just give you an example. Before, majorly in tech aspect, men are usually dominating, right? But now in modern era, we hear Texas and women are now like inclined to technology and doing things related to technology. So what can you tell us about that?
Okay, just like you said, that we have to be more inclusive with women, that sidelining women or saying that, or not looking to women doing what men are doing in terms of the workforce, because technology is also part of the workforce. Technology definitely brings some form of income to the government or to the country or to the society at large. So in that concept, with what he has said, I think women also play a role. Like now, if you talk about PiggyVest in Nigeria, the founders are female, and I think, I'm not so sure, but I think they were the first to make this digitalized colo kind of thing, that is savings, such that you can save, get interest and all of that. So I feel women play a big role. The problem is just that before now, we were not groomed. Women were not groomed to see themselves that way. Before now, women were not trained to feel that, okay, you could I don't want to use the word compete, because it's not really like competing, but like you could achieve as high, you could think that way. So now when you see women doing things like that, it's as if they've had to work twice as hard, because first on their mentality, like the way they view themselves, their mindset, and secondly, they have to now work to gain the skill. But like men contribute to technology, women are also contributing generally currently in the world.
Thank you very much. That was quite an interesting intake. Statement. Briefly, please can you tell us about the role of women, African women, in independence? What role do they play, depending on the region or particular area during the pre-colonial era?
Um, just to like, I think like there were some like just I'll start from where they ended. Or actually, just to add one or two things from what they actually said. One thing I believe is that pre-colonial women were more powerful than post-colonial women. The reason is when people talk about the African tradition and the African culture, there's this notion that women were looked down on, women were not respected, women were not allowed to do certain things and that. Yeah, of course, I understand that there are pros and cons to all of this, but that's culture, I understand. But one thing that we have to understand is that I think the African tradition, when I'm talking about women in African tradition, pre-colonial women were more powerful because they were women, number one. I'll give an example of Shaka Zulu. I think most of I don't know, but most people have watched the movie. And there's this thing that where after he has conquered the Zulu nation, he turns to his mother and says, "Take your place." Understand? And she becomes the queen mother of the Zulu nation. That was one of the greatest kingdoms in Southern Africa. So for me, women have always been powerful in Africa. It's only after colonialism that women lost their identity and we had this notion that a woman has to be in the village. It was never like that. Women were always powerful. Women were in charge. Understand? Men had, of course, like there was a place for men, there was a place for women. So we have to understand that first. When it comes to independence, we cannot talk about independence. I'm from the Southern Africa. We cannot talk about independence in the Southern Africa without mentioning women like Winnie Mandela. When Nelson Mandela was arrested for 27 years, she basically carried the ANC on her shoulders. Even when powerful men in the ANC decided to rebel against Nelson Mandela, when they decided to go with the apartheid government, then she was one of the women that gathered the youth and actually spearheaded the independence of South Africa. So for me, when we talk about independence, we cannot actually differentiate and say like, okay, women did not play any part. They did their part, and we couldn't have independence without them.
Okay.
Jeffrey,
Sorry, I would like to say that first. I wouldn't say that women before colonialization and they were more powerful then than they are now. Because overall, what has happened to women over time is that they've come to understand their disadvantages and they use their little advantages till they are able to make it into a big advantage. Now, most of this pre-colonial, even just look at it generally, when you consider the number of men that you hear about and what they did to the number of women, you will see that the ratio is not equal, it's not 50-50. But most of these women notice that, okay, yeah, I'm in this position where I have to sit back and take care of children. Then why can't I win through my child? That's one idea for the women. And also this thing differs from country to country, from parts of Africa to other parts of Africa. Because if you talked about this Shaka Zulu thing, but if you talk about someone like Fumi Layo and some Kuti, one of the things that made us speak up, which was even while Nigeria was under colonization, yeah, was because women were sidelined, women were put down, even market women had to pay more they had to pay more dues and all of that. And that was what brought about our own movement to free women. So maybe in South Africa, Southern Africa, because I saw that, okay, in Southern Africa, women played more roles compared to Western Africa. But in Western Africa, we still had these issues with women being sidelined, women having to stay back and sit back. But what women did is that some of them rose up and voiced out by themselves. Some of them trained their male children in such ways that they would know that, okay, when this child becomes great and becomes something, you can look back and say, my mother did this and invested this in me, because they had to spend more time with their children than the men. So I feel women from time immemorial were not always given that power. were not always given that freedom of choice, freedom to do whatever they felt they could do, but they used their little advantages to make bigger advantages.
Thank you very
And
much.
that's
Just can I follow up?
Thank you very much. I'm quickly going to talk about a quote from a very powerful woman in Africa. According to the former and first female president of Liberia, Her Excellency Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, women's leadership in Africa is not a new phenomenon. Throughout Africa's history, women were critical problem solvers, leading militaries during the pre-colonial period, freedom fighters during independence movements, transitional leaders during post-conflict periods, and leaders during some of the worst economic, political, and health crises of the 21st century. The pivot is an art form that women leaders have perfected globally, making them critical problem solvers that are more responsive and effective during times of crisis. In public leadership, effective pivots engage in critical reflection and decisive decision making, as well as taken simultaneously and seriously a diversity of voices throughout the problem solving process. Now, what should we attribute these features to? The fact that women are fast problem solvers, they think critically, they did all this pre-colonial time and post-colonial time. Should we say it's genetics or it's just an acquired feature? What can you say? Can you tell us about that?
I think it's a combination of both.
Okay, would you like to
Yeah.
expatiate?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick an example of Rwanda, right? Again, I want to talk about it. You see, when we look at Rwanda, right, something unfortunate happened. There was a genocide, right? And after the genocide, like a lot of lives were lost. A lot of people lost their lives, right? I know this kind of thing happened during wars and natural disaster, artificial disaster, like that. And the default resulting thing is that a lot of men lost their lives, right? So there was kind of a deficit of men, I would say. There was kind of like, yeah, there was like in most roles they played, in most places they assumed social obligations and responsibility in the workforce, in technological, in industrial aspect and all that, in government, in parliament and all that. You see, there was a deficit of men, So women had to be kind of naturally thrust into those positions. They had to step in, right? They had to fill in the gap so that the society as a whole would experience continuous growth. You see, so because of these lapses, women had to they had to step up their game in their country. And you see, when such scenario happened, it kind of revealed to us that the innate nature we saw that a lot of them are maybe shied away before, shied away from maybe contesting for political position. A lot of them are shied away from being active, taking up managerial position, working in the science, industrial sphere, technological sphere. But when this happened and they had to take it up, they realized that, oh yeah, we could do this, we could achieve this, and then I know that it's not necessarily a good thing that happened that resulted in a lot of women participating in this, but we could see that creating or inducing such scenarios through government creating platforms, creating opportunities for women to participate, encouraging, like for instance, we see a lot of banks, for instance, maybe the government giving loans to small businesses, like women-owned businesses, giving some kind of quota in government, okay, for parliamentary, there should be some form of representation. This encourages women to step up and actually positively contribute to change and contribute to the progress of the country.
Sorry, can I just say something
Yeah.
on that? Just very short. All right, so I would like not to believe that being a problem solver is a genetic thing.
Okay.
I feel there are skills that are called, maybe I should call them acquired skills. You don't come genetically as a problem solver. Like, it's not a gene. As a biologist, I feel. I feel so anyway. So I feel women as problem solvers, yeah, women solve problem, but it's not a thing based on genetics. A lot of the attributes of women that we see is based on how we've been nurtured, how we've been taught to think about ourselves. How that's why you will see some men or some boys or male that maybe they were trained in a particular way, and then you tell them that why are they acting like a woman?
Mm.
It's because of how they were trained, not because they have women like a woman's genetics. So I feel problem solving skills are acquired, not genetical.
Thank you very much. This one, what can you tell us about the positions that we can say women now occupy in the modern era in different sectors? I mean, government, maybe private sectors. What roles can you say women occupy in the modern era?
I think they occupy like everything. But let's context to that. Let me come. I'm coming. What I mean is, women have of course there's this deficit, like there's some inequalities here and there. But what I'm saying is that women have the capability to actually occupy any position in this world. But we have to. There is context to it, and the context is this: women should not hold certain positions just because they are women.
Okay.
So particular positions should not be given to them because you're a woman and we want to be very inclusive. So we give them that they become CEO of this and that, which is wrong. I'll give an example of my country. In my country, there's been this tendency of political parties. What political parties do is that if a political party has the president as a male president, right, you need a female vice president. Otherwise, you won't win. So the thing is that, yeah, you're trying to be inclusive, right? You're trying to be inclusive and you want to include women, but the thing is, most of the times, I feel like it's also very disrespectful to women because you are just trying to include them. At the end of the day, you find that the people that you put there are actually not even competent. There would be other women that are very competent that would actually run the country better than the men that are running it. So you just give them the position of vice president because they are women. Understand? So I feel like when it comes to positions, I feel like where the world is now, there is no position that a woman cannot go for and they cannot attain. So the question should not be whether you are male or female. The question should be the question of competency. Are you competent enough to hold that position?
Yeah.
So that's what the conversation should be on. Like, it should be a conversation of competency, not a conversation of gender.
Thank you very much. Timothy, this question goes to you. How do women's roles differ from men's in the African society? Where do we draw the line? Like, if you're standing on what this man just said, we know before there were rules women can do, there were rules women cannot do, simply because they were just women. But things have changed, right? The narrative has changed. So now, what is the difference between women and men's role, and where do we draw the line?
Okay. Look based on your question, right? Standing on what this man said, I would say the role of women, right, and the role of men are both essentially important, right? And there must be actually representation of both, and there must in fact, beyond just representation, when we look at the world, right, we see like the civilization of the world that we see now was built on the backs of mostly men. You see, most of the things that we saw, most of the innovations, most of the discoveries, right, was built on mostly men. Men were out there. Men were. You see, society was kind of designed in a way, right, that kind of puts men there, and because of that, the women were kind of the people that stayed behind the scene and nurtured family, took care of family, and all this kind of and all we discussed, right? But we see that in the modern world, there is kind of an opportunity for everybody to. You can be so ambitious. You can decide that you want to be the president of America, Nigeria, right? Tomorrow, you are a citizen. You can run. You can contest in party. Nobody's going to stop you, right? Nobody's going to prevent you from doing that. But we're now looking at really what are the odds that you stand the chance actually to be successful in that position. Then we will now look at the values, the core principles of what the society, our society is driven behind the scenes. So these things might not be necessarily spelled out, right? Nobody will tell you, oh yeah, you can't contest for president, you can't contest for this, you can't contest for that. But you will meet some kind of resistance and some kind of opposition that you will not necessarily meet if you were a man, right? Because of the usual construct, you see. So back to your question, you see, naturally, according to nature, right? There are some things that are infallible that we cannot take away from them. A man cannot be a better caretaker of children, caretaker of family, caretaker of relationship, communal living. There's some things that God-given things to women that women are already able to do. And even in terms of man and men capacity and ability, in terms of physical strength and terms of things, according to nature, there are some things that men have always been thrust out there to do. You see, so God ordained such things. Maybe people don't believe in God, but you see, so that we can. But the point is, nature in the universe ordained such things so that we could come together to work as a force to build the society, the world, build a better world that we have today. You see, so the balance is that when we talk about women's rights, we talk about I advocate for women's rights, you see, but I don't advocate for like what this man said, just give it to them because you're a woman, or you're a woman, or just do it at the cost of men, or make it seem like women and men are competing, and then men are the ones that we should reduce their opportunities just to improve it for women. No, I don't actually advocate for that, but I would say that in a pool of competence, right? In a pool of competent men and women, right? When you create an opportunity when you intentionally seek out those women that are competent, you realize that. Let's give an example, right? There's a position, right, for the governor of World Bank, right? And there is 10,000 applications, right? And the process of getting to that position is very arduous, and the requirements that you need, like you have to have chair of this bank, chair of this, you have to have been a minister of finance, you have to have had $1 million in your account, you have to be the manager of this company, you have to do that. You realize that at the end of the day, once people go through that process of recruitment for that position, 70 to 80% will still be men. Why? It's not like women don't apply. It's not that women don't want to participate in that. You see, there was a particular, I think it was a particular country said that they gave out loans for people to participate, for small businesses to come and participate and join. But they realized that even after giving those incentives, most of the small businesses that came were still owned by men. It's not that women don't want to participate. It's because there's a line of process to an end that still favors men. And not just that it favors men. So putting an incentive for women can never be. We cannot underlook it. We must put an incentive for women so that we can also integrate their competence and integrate the competent ones to be able to work with the men that are already on ground to actually build this wholesome societal body.
Thank you.
Can I have a point of view?
Yes, there is a question designed for you, and we don't have much time,
Okay,
and there are a lot
okay.
of questions I want to ask.
I'll mix it together.
Okay. We know. I think I like to believe this is an African thing, right? We know women in pre-colonial era presently, they tend to have associations in every sector. In the market, there is this thing in my language, we call it ajo. I believe in Gambia they call it isusu. I don't know what they call it in Zambia and some other African countries. It's basically when women come together, right, and they contribute money, maybe weekly or monthly, and at the end of the month, you can give that money to a particular person in that group, and it continues like that. It's a cycle. So we have associations like Market Association or Ashwebi Association, stuff like that, right? And it has been existing from time immemorial. So my question relating to this, but yeah, to shift me, is how has this these associations, how have they helped the community, right? Or the family, they're starting the family because we know when women do this, most importantly, they do it to help the family, to raise money for maybe these kids or to feed their kids or something, or to help their husbands. And we know it has really helped the family in one way or the other. But basically, how has it helped the community at large?
Okay. So yes, very good. I'm going to just merge what they have said, my opinion on it, and this together. So first, the question for him was, where do we draw the line? I believe there's actually no line. The major problem that he has highlighted is the fact that before now, from when you are a small child as a lady, there are things that there are societal construct that about how you should behave, what you can become, what you should do, what you should not do. So the problem when you see an application for maybe like what he said that a chairman, and he said that after the rigorous processes, women are not found on the final list, is because before now, women were not given the opportunity to do the small things. And even just like the Bible says, if you have not been if you have been faithful in little, then you'll be given bigger things. You get. So if I've not worked as a bank, I've not worked in a bank before. I've not been an accounting officer. I've not had those small opportunities. I've not been a manager of a bank. I've not held a big accounting position. How do I get to become the world organization's accountant or whatever the position was? Do you get? So if women have been given the opportunity from little things and they've been able to build their competence, even it all starts from the mindset in the home, telling your daughter that, oh, you can achieve as much as my son is achieving. Like, you both can achieve the same things provided you want it. The moment both of them can, like the moment from being a young child, you know that, okay, I can be an high achiever if I'm the best in my class and all of that. The moment you keep building that record, you will have a competitive advantage in future. Now, he said something about loans and how they said more men came for the loans. I'm wondering which country is that, because in Nigeria, I know women take loans majorly for businesses. Most small and medium-sized businesses in Nigeria are owned by women. Most small and medium-sized businesses are owned by women. And like you said, the whole Esusu thing, market organizations, women communities, the role of these communities first is to build women. In this present day, most of these communities try to see, okay, where are women disadvantaged and how can we take away this disadvantage or use this disadvantage for our advantage. And when you train a woman, people say that, oh, if you train a woman, you train maybe a whole generation or something like that, because it's the woman that spends more time with the children to take care of them and things like that. And when a woman also is able to do this ajo or isusu or whatever they call it, when they are able to do it, they also use it to support the family and help the family. Some of them even use it for their business, which in turn, maybe through taxes, can bring money to the government. The business can in turn help their family, help the society at large. So yeah.
Thank you very much. I'll briefly describe the statistics regarding African women. Africa is still a global leader in women's public leadership. 5 African countries are in the top 20 nations for women's parliamentary representation, and at 60%, Rwanda still leads the world in terms of women in parliament. Smoothly mentioned this, right? 4 African countries, each with over 45% women's representation in cabinet, are among the top 20 countries globally. Moreover, African women's growing presence as public leaders is not confined to the national institutions. and African women now hold positions, leadership positions in the World Trade Organization, African Union, and United Nations, among others. So, how was Africa able to achieve this? Was it simply just by default, or because things are changing in the world and Africa has to do something? Chiefly, what do you think about that?
Well, I don't think it's by default.
Okay.
I think it's because things are changing. More women are encouraged to speak up. Women are more like now. Basically, almost every country is trying to encourage women to take up positions. Yes, there may be a problem of competence. I wouldn't lie, because personally, I wouldn't want a situation where they view us as, oh, because you can't really do it, or yeah, we can, we have to support you, so they just put you there. I get it. But like currently, it's not a thing of default. There's more support for women, and there are also women out there that are working their asses off and working hard to be who they are supposed to be, to fit into these positions. So it's not default. It's hard work, opportunities, and support.
Okay, this one.
Can I follow up?
Yes, you can follow.
Can I be there
But
for what she said?
before you say what you're going to say, I would like to throw this question to you. So maybe you can,
Yeah.
yeah. Has this achievement impacted Africa in any positive way? The fact that women are now rising to the occasion, they're changing their narrative. Do you think it has made something out of Africa? You can start.
I'll start with what she said, and I'll go back to what I said earlier on. Pre-colonial women were more powerful than post-colonial women, and that can be seen. In post-colonial Africa, because we have, of course, it's not that high because of the effect of colonialism, but at least you can see it that women are participating in government. We see women participating in politics. We see women participating in the private sector too. So yeah, like I always say this, that the most powerful woman is one that is a woman, and the most powerful man is one that is a man. So when you integrate that in Africa, we have because of our culture, because of our tradition, women understand who they are, and of course they are. I'm following up on what she said. There's this identity thing, things like, but that's a post-colonial thing, and I'll come back to that. But women in Africa are, especially those that are participating in politics, those that are doing businesses, those that are doing all these things, like they are very, very important. They know who they are. They know the strength and their capabilities, and that is very important for the development of Africa. And that can be seen. We've seen. Look at Tanzania. Tanzania has a female president. Liberia had a female president. You can see how I mentioned about South Africa and Winnie Mandela. You see the things that she did and things like that. We've had even in Parliament, Namibia has one of the youngest, I think, in the world, youngest member of Parliament. Very young. She's female and things like that. So the thing is, what we should be discussing is to increase women participation. But that's a topic for another day. So
Yeah,
women
probably will discuss it today.
yeah. Women's participation is very critical in government, in business and everything like that, because their input is very, very important, and that helps for the country to actually be successful.
Thank you very much. This might be the last question because there are actually a lot of questions, but we don't have time. So briefly, I would read concerning discrimination and gender inequalities. So according to the latest figures released by the United Nations, women's economic activity in Africa is about 61.9%, which is higher than most other economic regions in the world. Yet, the proportion of women working in the non-agricultural sector is one of the lowest, 8.5. Women continue to suffer discrimination at work. Now, it also takes us back to another research. Though notable progress has been made in an attempt to address women in Africa and their role in social and economic life, African women continue to face gender barriers to successful participation in the workforce, particularly employment policies and discriminatory employment practices. Africa suffers from discrimination at work, unequal sharing of family and family responsibilities, lack of supervision of productive resources such as land and property, the lack of low-paid jobs, and the operation of micro-enterprises and scale. There is still a limit to the contribution of African women to social and economic life through their limited empowerment in the development side. Now, what support do women need from government? What should the government do? Do they put laws and policies in place that can help that can help break this barrier, or what incentives, what initiatives should be done to put a stop to this? Timothy, just very briefly, please, can you say something about it?
Yeah, I think we kind of already brushed around this topic before, right?
Yeah, but we need it like a kind of solution to it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can start. Okay, I'll give an instance, right? In Nigeria, according to the constitution of Nigeria, you see, there was a law, right, that was passed that said like in most institutions, most firms, most like, because we're talking about the workforce now, like there should be at least representation of women, at least 30 to 35%, right? But we still don't see it though, because though it was a policy officially given by the government, but it felt more or less like a suggestion and not something mandatory. So like so I think we have done a lot. You see, a lot has happened according to statistics. A lot of improvement has been made, a lot of incentives have been made in terms of education, enabling women, not just empowerment, enabling them, giving them opportunities to participate in all this. You see, but I think this part we're told in this part we're taking, we can do more. We can you see, like the example I gave about small businesses. This happened like about 12 to 13 years ago, right? And from that observation, from that research or statistics, when they saw that a lot of women did not come in for this small businesses loans because of the arduous processes. Since then, a lot of changes have been made, and we see now a lot of women have participated in getting loans for their small businesses. They have made the process very easy and all that. You see, there was statistics that was made, right? For instance, in education, we saw that, of course, we see men and women are allowed to go to school, go to secondary school. We see at some point in puberty, we see that women kind of drop out, kind of stay home, and then they just say, let the men, let the guys just continue and all that. And then the research was done. Why is this? And they found out that very petty reasons. For instance, maybe in the school, the toilet was not conducive for the ladies, and then in puberty, they started having period issues, they started having adolescent issues, and they decided to stay home and just marry and take care of their child. You see, but when we pay attention to those little things, those little things make up for the whole general things. So paying attention to what women go through and the issues they face, and try to improve on it. And Africa has really taken this into consideration to this day.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Very briefly, Shifumi, please, can you tell us if there should be punishment for any organization that violates these laws and policies, and how heavy should the punishment be? Very briefly.
Okay, first I'm going to say that for the first question, the first thing the government can do is enforcement of laws. One of the problems we have in Africa generally is the government makes laws, but they are not enforced. So when you don't abide by the law, there's nothing happens. You go scot-free. And I think this is in almost every African country. Now, for me, to answer this question, the issue is first, you really need to go back to the grassroots education of both men and women, of both boys and girls. And when you enforce, like when education is done properly, enforce that children should be educated, enforce that children, like younger ladies, should not get married or have children. It's possible that, okay, maybe out of wedlock you make a mistake as a young girl. It's different from what we see in some parts of Nigeria, where a small child from her first menstruation, they believe she should go to her husband's house to do the next one, so they marry them up. Now, the question that you asked me, sorry again, please. The question.
That question was supposed to go to this one.
Oh, I'm sorry, but yeah, the question is free. The question. I just want to get your question again to me. Sorry. Repeat it.
Like, you basically just said it that government should enforce laws or
Yes.
teach kids from
A very
schools.
young age.
Yeah. Now the question is, what punishment should be put in place if anyone is found violating these laws regarding women, and how heavy should the punishments be?
Well, first punishments have to be put in place. It depends on the community and the country. For example, for some companies, if they have to pay heavily for something, it may be a problem. For some, it may not be. For those companies where you need to figure out, okay, what is something that it's an heavy cost. Because if the punishment, for example, if I'm of the opinion that, oh, if I don't do this thing, they'll just ask me to pay 1,000 rubles, for example. How much is 1,000 rubles? I can't afford it, so I'm not going to do it. Do you get? So the punishment should cost the companies something so that they can adhere to it. Because if there is no cost, like no serious cost on the companies or the institutions or whatever, they can always just brush it off and say, what do we stand to lose?
Thank you very much. So, you don't have anything to add, right?
just to add on what she said, when it comes to punishment, especially when it comes to companies or corporations, they have to feel it. You don't just make it like they will have a fine and that's it. Some companies can afford to pay the fine and that's it. So you really have to put laws that that will make the company lose in some way. So they should be. But I pray that it doesn't have to get to that extent because of the current world where we are in. Like it's, I'm into entrepreneurship, and I can tell you this that according to my own experience, I'll say that according to my own experience, if you really want to succeed, you need women on your team. Like you need women on your team. Like for me, that has always worked for me. That has always worked for me. And not having them because they are women, but women are the most focused people that I've come across, that I've worked with. That when it comes to focus, when it comes to doing things that should be done, like they're always on target. And I feel if you're into business, you're into the private sector, that is something that you should actually consider.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We really appreciate your contribution. Thank you so much. So briefly, I'm going to introduce to you some African women that have achieved historical feat. Apologies for any mispronunciation. Bear with me. So the first on the list is Wangari Maathai. Born in Kenya, Maathai was an environmental political activist, a 2004 Nobel Prize laureate, author of 4 books, and founder of the Green Belt movement. Alongside her many accomplishments, Maathai was the chair of the Department of Veterinary Anatomy and a professor after she became the first woman in East and Central Africa to earn a doctorate degree. Then we have Jas Santua, born in Ghana. Santua was known as Queen Mother of Ejisu, or modern-day Ghana, an inspirational and historically relevant female figure. She is recognized for playing a large role in confronting British colonial rule during her period in the early 1900s. Then we have Joyce Banda, born in Malawi, winner of Forbes' Most Powerful Women in Africa, and named the 40th most powerful woman in the world. Joyce Banda is the first female to be elected president in Malawi. As the founder of the National Association of Businesswomen, Young Women Leaders Network, and the Hunger Project, Banda has fought for human rights and education across Malawi. Then we have the Dahomey Amazons, present-day Benin. Dahome's women warriors was comprised of a group of revered all-female fighters from the Dahomey Kingdom, who played an essential role in the endless war that raged across the country. They were also known to take on prominent government roles in the kingdom, as well as serving as the king's royal entourage. Their strength was portrayed in the movie The Woman King. Then we also have Funmilayo Ransome Kuti, who was a leading activist during Nigerian women's anti-colonial struggles. She founded the Abeokuta Women's Union, one of the most impressive women's organizations of the 20th century, with a membership estimated to have reached up to 20,000 women, which fought to protect and further the rights of women. We also have Giselle Rebez Sahala. As a celebrated Malagasy woman, politician of the 20th century, She devoted her life to the country's independence, human rights, and the freedom of people. The first Malagasy woman to be elected as a municipal councillor and a political party leader, and to be appointed minister in 1977. She is regarded as a pioneer in Malagasy politics. Lastly, we have Zenzi Miriam Makeba. She was a South African singer and a world-renowned symbol of the fight against apartheid. After beginning her music career in her home country, she goes into exile in the United States, where she gains wide recognition. Following her marriage to the activist Tokili Kamakel, she is once again exiled, this time to Guinea, where she embarks upon an African and international career. Her talent and her militant engagements make her an icon in the defense of human rights. Then we also have the following modern phenomenal women. Angelique Kidjo, a Beninese French singer, songwriter, actress, and activist. Ngozi Ponjo Iweala, Nigeria, Director General of the World Trade Organization. We have Fatma Samura, Senegal, Secretary General of FIFA. Irene Chanley, South Africa, founder of Smile Communications. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie, Nigeria, a novelist. Lupita Nyong'o, Kenya, an Oscar-winning actress. We also have Fatou Bensouda, Gambia, prosecutor of International Criminal Court. Victoria Kwakwa, Ghana, regional vice president for Eastern and Southern Africa at the World Bank. We also have Mkwandi Chivisakunda, CEO, Zambia National Commercial Bank. Vitaly Nalumango, Her Excellency, Vice President of Zambia. This is a pro tip to all the women out there watching this program, or if you have any access to this program, this is your time to shine. Don't sit there and wait for people to help you. You can help yourself. Take the reign, rise to the occasion, and change your future. You can do it. All the best to you. We have come to the end of another episode of Bantaba. Thank you for joining us again. See you next week, same time, same place. Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Hello guys, we just concluded this episode of Bantaba. If you're watching this video, it means you already know how it went. I can bet you had a great time. We will be here next week, same time, same venue. Stay tuned. It's your favorite host, Christina. Bye.